apostates didn't last long. Were usually found somewhere, cut up into many pieces, blood spilled, running to the maximum that blood could be spilled and run, because the Mormons believed in blood atonement. Anyone who disagreed with the hierarchy of the leadership of the church was very often found in this condition, drained of blood, parts of their bodies scattered. The material results is the great attraction of the Mormon church. If you live in a city that is mainly populated by Mormons, ladies and gentlemen, and you are not a member of the Mormon church, you are not going to make it in your business, and they make no secret of telling you that. Every so often you will be visited by one of the missionaries of the Mormon church who will tell you that they can guarantee the success of your business if you will just come in and be a member of the brotherhood, so to speak. Let And of course, if you refuse, you're shunned in politics, in business, and in society. So what? What is it that constitutes Mormonism? In many respects, they operate exactly the same as the Masonic Lodge.
Founders of this country, by and large, were Christian. Many of them weren't Christian, but pretended to be, were deists, and you can find that in their writings. Many of them were members of the secret societies. How many of you believe Thomas Jefferson was a Christian? I'm not afraid. I believed it until I read the truth about Thomas Jefferson and studied his life. Thomas Jefferson hated Christianity. Thomas Jefferson tore up the Bible. Thomas Jefferson wrote his own Bible because he said the God of the universe could not possibly be that terrible God represented in the King James Version of the Bible. Don't be afraid to raise your hand in here, folks. Nothing that I'm going to say is intended as a personal slant or insult or attack upon anybody in here. But I need your cooperation in order for us all to learn. See, I wasn't afraid. I raised my hand. That's what I believed most of my life until I really studied Thomas Jefferson and found out what he really was. He was a deist. So was Benjamin Franklin. How many of you knew that Benjamin Franklin was the master of the Masonic Lodge in Philadelphia? How many of you knew that he was the master of the Lodge of Nine Muses in France? Have you ever studied the Lodge of Nine Muses? Boy, you better. How many of you knew that when Benjamin Franklin was in the colonies, he pretended to be a pious Christian, although he was not seen in church too much? Pretended to be a pious Christian. However, he entered into a sexual relationship and a living arrangement with two different women and sired children by both of them, never married either one. How many of you knew that? How many of you knew that when Benjamin Franklin went to France, he surrounded himself with prostitutes and drank champagne almost 24 hours a day and just reveled in orgies? How many of you knew that? You'd be surprised what some ugly old men are capable of. See, these are things you don't know because you were taught something different, and it makes you uncomfortable to hear what I'm telling you, only for the reason that you've been taught something else and you've been reared with it and you've accepted it. It's hard to let go of something that you have learned and accepted that is not true. You don't want to let go of it because then you have to give up your comfort zone. How many of you know that George Washington was a Freemason? How many of you know if you're a Freemason, you cannot possibly in your wildest dreams be a Christian? It's absolutely impossible. And I can show it to you in their own words. So how could George Washington be a Christian? And you don't even know the slightest, teeniest bit about his real involvement in the secret societies.
States of America, Benjamin Franklin was one of the founding fathers who was a genius in diplomacy and science. He was a member of the Hellfire Club. You know, and they used to perform satanic rituals, and they used Masonic symbolism in the creation of all the symbology for this country. So they were Satanists.
I might mention that, speaking of Satanism, There are between 50 and 60,000 human sacrifices, according to 3 different sources, in this country every year. The satanic cults operate secretly. The satanic cults are, along with our covert criminal enterprise within the government, a serious threat to our society. As I stand here and you sit there, the children are disappearing in this country at the rate of 83 per hour. That's over 700,000 children a year. Paul has told me about snuff films that he was involved in, where he went into a cage where they hold the Bilderberger, not the Bilderberger, but the Bohemian Grove meetings in Northern California. And he's talked about satanic ceremonies in front of the owl at the Bohemian Grove.
I, myself, Peter Alexander Chernev, am one of 3 people that have witnessed ritualistic murders of children during the 80s up here during the 80s. The other one is David Scherter, and the third person is Paul Bonacci, who was made well known in the book by Senator John DeCamp, The Franklin Cover-Up. And I'll show you right here what I put out. I'll read it to you as you look at it. Doug reminded me it was actually 1984. I'm not real good at remembering dates, but at the Bohemian Grove, I was involved in a rather private ritual, Catholic, Nazi, satanic in nature, a service, a working, if you will, with 9 relative unknowns at the time, so to speak. A most unique killing ritual table with 9 retractable, long, thin, sharp knives, blades. Young Catholic Kevin Collins, snatched off the streets of San Francisco, was sacrificed. As he lay on the table, the knives were brought up through him. And after this, each participant, buoyed by the others, rose to prominence. Leaders of the minions, princes unto Mammon. I called it 9 knights, 9 arms, 9 blades.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
Agenda 21 in California. If you guys aren't familiar with it, just research it. These California fires are absolutely mind-bogglingly evil. And I think it's really fascinating that they're calling the most destructive fire in California's history a campfire that caused paradise to burn. Just think of the play with language here, folks. And then you discover that PG&E, the same PG&E that has been now named by firefighters in California as being at least partially responsible for those devastating Tubbs fires in October of 2017, this same PG&E, when you go to their website and you click on Our Team, the picture that pops up is Roger H. Kimmel, Vice Chairman of Rothschild, Inc. And then you look at the pictures of these fires, Robert, and you tell me how it can be called a forest fire when the trees are left standing and entire neighborhoods are burned to the ground. There's something very strange going on in California.
Well, it's not neighborhoods. It's only the buildings and only the cars. And asphalt melts in the face of heat. This is directed energy without question. This is microwave arson, and Catherine Austin Fitts and many others have focused on this. We have a post at Phi Beta Iota that lays all of this out. I cannot understand how the President of the United States can go to these fires and play along with the narrative.
know, I watched a couple days ago, just to check on things, I watched a little video talking about the cremation of care, and they were making light of this. Well, the cremation of care, what it is, really, it's a discussion regarding population control. They're making decisions as to what group of millions of people they're going to genocide next. And we all have seen the genocides over the last 10, 15 years for anybody that's paying even a modicum of attention. I am one of 3 people that has publicly acknowledged being involved in ritualistic murder of children up in Bohemian Grove. Paul Bonacci being one of Nebraska, which you can read Senator John DeCamp's Franklin cover-up. It's online.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy. There's no in between.
I am against the decision that was made to allow George H.W. Bush to die without being indicted. George H.W. Bush is the master criminal in our era, and they're going to let him die peacefully.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy.
So Joseph Smith became a martyr. When his indictment was in sight and the movement might have died a natural death, hot-headed men with a just grievance killed their cause by immortalizing their opponent and giving his followers a supposed occasion for seeking revenge upon the wicked inhabitants of Gentile America and their descendants. And the hierarchy of the leadership of the Mormon Church today is totally immersed in the creation of the New World totalitarian socialist order.
We have one legal system for the rich and one legal system for the poor. So there's a 1% legal system where Jeffrey Epstein can get away with pedophilia, run amok, and tunnels and video channels, 16 video channels. He had 16 separate video channels into the caves under his island where there were different kinds of pedophilia going on. And he just spent $20 million burying all of that. And then you have the justice system for the poor. Let me tell you, the justice system for the poor, I'm the chief counsel for the Judicial Commission of Review on human trafficking and child sex abuse. And one of the things we've learned is that the legal system for the poor is optimized to literally harvest children, to monetize children into adoption schemes that are kept secret so that the pedophiles that buy the children are protected. And it's also designed to harvest estates from the elderly. Elderly people across America are being put into wards of the state in a very malicious, deliberate fashion that often includes drugging them, so that the state can then, or the individuals within the state, specific judges, specific prosecutors, specific lawyers that look for these victims, and they literally turn them into a ward of the state, and then they suck out their estate and then let them die under state care. So this legal system for the poor is actually a legal system against the poor, not for the poor. And I think Tavi has rendered a very important work there, and I think you will see much, much more about this, to include, I believe, that Grant Thornton, which is a Rothschild company, and all of these other auditing firms, they're all going to be taken down in the next 5 to 6 years, because all of them are corrupt to the bone, basically rubber stamping high crimes at the highest possible level.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy.
I'm a 7th generation Mormon. My ancestors joined the church in England, migrated to Nauvoo, Illinois, and crossed the plains as pioneers. This is a veritable latter-day David and Goliath story. I have served on the Priesthood Executive Committee for 3 straight decades in capacity of bishopric, high priest group, elders quorum, or young men's president. And just 4 short years ago, I would have been considered solid Mormon pioneer stock. I am a Brigham Young University graduate, and over the past 15 years, 4 of the nation's leading physicians and 3 of the nation's leading CEOs have solicited my services. One of these was Bill Fields, CEO of Walmart, and I currently educate CPAs around the country. From all of this arose the data that we now have of the infiltration of the occult into the LDS Church, which came to a head in 1991 when the Utah Attorney General's office joined up with the LDS presiding bishopric to perform an internal investigation of this phenomenon. Presiding bishopric member Glenn L. Pace wrote a lengthy memo to the Quorum of the 12 with their joint findings, which the church has kept quiet for 25 years. Fortunately, Elder Mickelson instructed his daughter to take a copy from the attorney firm where that document was leaked. I still have my original copy from the copy she took. It is both enlightening and mind-boggling for me as a 7th-generation Latter-day Saint to see what role this investigation played in both the changing of the temple ceremony as well as the role it played in Elder Mickelson's family dating back to the 1940s and 50s. All this according to the psychiatrist group that approached me.
The real beliefs, to quote a lifelong student of Mormonism, are essentially in common as follows. Quote, Smith, a prophet, continuous revelation through him and others, the Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants as such revelations, the Pearl of Great Price as translated by Smith, parts of which are parts of the inspired translation by him, more revelations yet to come, at least equal to the Bible, Melchizedek and Aaronic priesthoods, gathering, tithing, flesh and bones God, Adam, many gods logically involved in this, but not often advocated by Josephites, Christ and the Spirit, but not Bible conceptions, sin a necessity for man, hell is a saving agency, salvation through works instead of by faith in Christ, exactly as in the Masonic Lodge, baptism, which is immersion, essential to salvation, pre-existence of all men, apostasy of the Christian church, authority, organization of the church on their style, punishment after death, temporary and measured by sins, pre-millennianism, the Bible defective and practically superseded by their revelations in the Book of Mormon, their president alone the mouthpiece of God and American Pope, etc. In the temple ceremony, when the people call out to God in one instance, until recently when this was revealed to the American public, the one that answered was Lucifer. When this became public knowledge through revelations of disaffected Mormons, the ceremony has been changed. And now they deny any involvement with the worship of Lucifer. But ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you that any study of the Mormon religion will reveal that that is a lie. Quite a list of rarities I just gave you, yet one that does not lay claim to completeness. As to that, the Reverend Van Dellen reminds us that their system contains elements borrowed from such widely divergent sources as Christianity, Judaism, Mohammedanism, fetishism, communism, and communism is a big one, and they are major players in the emerging New World Order, which will be totalitarian and socialist in nature. They are in almost complete control of the secret agencies of the United States government which are bringing it about. Manichaeism, Campbellism, Freemasonry, and the hidden mystery religions of Babylon.
I have unsuccessfully gone through the appellate process in Utah to seek justice for my daughter and our family. But even if I were given audience at the Utah Supreme Court level, 4 of the 5 justices on the Utah Supreme Court bench have also enacted the slitting of their throats in taking this LDS oath to defend their church with their lives. With this supreme power, the LDS Church has a stranglehold on justice over its victims. Had a Mormon become President of the United States, his oath to the Church would clearly trump his oath of office as President. This is a serious concern and a conflict of interest for the people of the United States. It is also a severe conflict of interest in our judiciary system when justice is out of the reach of the victims, because the majority of the judiciary is beholden, by way of this death oath, to defend their church, regardless of the goodness or intentions of those individual LDS judges. It is an unquestionable conflict of interest. Pedophilia is a societal problem. If you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. And donating to these entities that perpetrate, hide, or cover for these perpetrators only means that you are a financier of child molestation.
Most Mormons in their heart know that their doctrine is false. But their religion is a social religion that brings many rewards. Social rewards, business rewards, community rewards, monetary rewards, recognition, a sense of belonging. And just like the mystery schools, they are told that they are part of the elect, and that they know secrets which the profane will never know. And since the Mormons usually, for the most part, live in mostly Mormon communities, it is not in their best interest ever to admit that they know the falsity of the doctrine, to bring up any criticism of the church. For when they do, it has been well documented, ladies and gentlemen, that those who have the courage enough to question, to tell the truth, to stand up, are ostracized, outcast. People who have claimed undying friendship immediately desert them. They're excommunicated publicly and hounded by the church. All of a sudden, no one patronizes their business, and no one will hire them if they need to get a job. Unless, of course, there are businesses in the area which are not Mormon-owned. Throughout the years, many people who have done these things have been found dead in the most bloody fashion, according to the Mormon doctrine of blood atonement. Question. Always question. Never blindly follow anyone.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy.
Participants, except for one or two I didn't mention, are Willie Brown, Arlen Specter, Barney Frank, Roger Mahoney, the LA Cardinal, Ratzinger, who's now the Pope, Robert Byrd, George Bush Sr., otherwise known as George Scherf, S-C-H-E-R-F-F.
You mean Magog? That's what they call him, the man who wages war against God in the final days of earth.
Yes.
My number is 9.
And Warren Buffett, and the Master of Ceremonies was Dr. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.